Hola locos, this is Alberto Huichapa.
And this is Ray Saari, the new technical director for the club.
And this is a Kickback podcast presented by the District Pub and Kitchen. So Ray, you're the new technical director for the club, as you just mentioned in the intro there. Just before we begin this whole thing, just how excited are you to be taking on this role, and how honored are you to be in this position that you're in right now?
No, I'm very excited to be here. Very fortunate to be a part of this club. It's a very good club. Everybody in the league knows the club. They know how good the ownership group is. They know how good the resources is at the club. What we have as a staff to work with in terms of players, fields, fans, things like that. I'm very lucky to be a part of this club, and I'm very excited as to what we can do for 2025.
We're looking forward to 2025. Us, front office, technical staff, and the fans. We're excited for 2025. So we're really excited to see what you're going to be doing here next year. But how about we, get to know you a little bit more, let the fans know who you are, your backstory essentially. So I've got here in my little notes. You're from Kansas City, correct?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah.
So how was that growing up as a youth player? Kansas City is a big soccer city.
Yeah.
It's going to host a World Cup. It's going to host World Cup games in a few years. So how was that growing up as a kid? In the youth soccer space in Kansas City.
No, Kansas City. Obviously, you said it. It's football is very popular there. Obviously, having Sporting Kansas City there, the area is a lot bigger than people think. So there's a lot of good competition. I was very fortunate to grow up in a place that had such a competitive environment for footy, and being able to be around the MLS, being there and watching that. I had some coaches growing up that had played for what was then the Wizards. So it's a great city to be in. I played growing up, obviously, it is a home to me. It is a home, but I'm happy. I can definitely say that El Paso is very much so my new home, and I feel very comfortable here. My girlfriend and I, we love it here, and like I said, we're extremely excited to be here and be a part of this club.
We'll touch a little bit more on your time here in El Paso and what you've come to love and enjoy here.
Yeah,
we'll touch a little bit on that because we're all curious to know maybe some places that you've gone to that you like, or what you like about the city.
Yeah,
and just staying on the path right now. And doing research for this, and getting everything ready. And I didn't know this initially, but we found out that, and doing all the research and Googling and whatnot, that you were a, survivor of childhood cancer, and that's a difficult situation for anybody to undergo through. I can't imagine what that must have been like for you to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that there's nothing any parent or any child can do to prepare for a situation like that. I'm very fortunate that I had very good doctors. I had a lot of people supporting me through that period of my life. Fortunately enough, it's something that is now a speed bump. It was a speed bump in my life. I was still able to go play Division I. I was still able to become a pro. And a lot of that is because of the support system that I had behind me. And obviously, like I said, the doctors, my family, my friends, the soccer community within Kansas City being what it was. It was a very difficult time in my life, I can say, but I'm very lucky. I'm an extremely fortunate person, and like I said, now it's something that I don't want to say that I forget about it. It's definitely affected my the way that I look at things. I think now I'm a pretty optimistic person because of it.
Cool.
Life is always good, no matter the little waves that you encounter, but yeah, like I said, I'm extremely fortunate that I had the support system that I did, and they, it was nothing more than a speed bump now.
Yeah, it didn't stray you off the path, and it didn't stray you off your dream of becoming pro.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's what motivated, as you were fighting, that battle. It's like, you still had that dream. I'm sure that, that and the support system that you had around you just kept you positive throughout the whole experience.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's some funny stories within it. You're not, while you're going through chemotherapy and these things, you're not allowed to play or do contact sports for a lot of different reasons. But my friends and I, we would still go play. I had no hair. I was, lost almost all my weight, all my muscle, and I was still running around trying to exercise. And I definitely do think that it was the dream of still being a pro and playing Division I. And yeah, that kind of like, if anything, it was a distraction for me, and it was actually what helped me get through like that
cope
mental
through
barrier.
and just kind of like
Yeah.
just get out of that space and just
Yeah.
escape for a while.
Exactly, and you know, as many people who play footy know, like, you know, when you're playing, like, nothing else, you're not thinking about anything else besides the game, you know.
Correct.
So I definitely think that footy was an escape for me. If anything, like it was what kind of saved me through the process, I guess, you know, for lack of a better word. And yeah, it's there's funny stories about my mom having caught me and my friends playing at the local like indoor facility.
Can't
you know,
imagine
it
the
was,
chewing out you got
yeah,
there.
it wasn't a good day. But then we go again the next week, and we did the same thing at a different complex. So it's
We were all
yeah,
teenagers in our rebellious
exactly.
years, not like listening to our parents. Hey, we've all been there.
exactly.
All right. I mean, so you think, you know, as you said, you're here. You beat your battle against childhood cancer. We're glad to have you here. You know, after that period in your life, you start beginning the next chapter, which is, you know, you go to play college soccer. You go to the University of Tulsa to go play there. You play there all 4 years. You know, you're named to the all conference team your sophomore year. Just and then in Tulsa, while you're playing there at the university, you also played with the MPSL side, Tulsa Athletic, which you've talked to me off camera before in the past. Just how much that team means to you and how much you know, they gave to you. I mean, you know, because of your experience with MPSL, you know, and Tulsa Athletic, the MPSL actually named you one of the league's best time players. You know, which is, I'm sure, something surreal for you when you found that out. I mean, just how grateful are you to, you know, to a city like Tulsa to like have, you know, giving you that opportunity, you know, after what you've experienced in your younger years, to continue, you know, fighting for this dream of going pro one day.
Yeah, I mean, my decision to go to Tulsa, when I made that decision, I didn't yet realize how important that place would be to me, you know, later on after I left. Yeah, we were very successful with the college team while I was there. We went to 4 conference finals. We won 3 of them. And then, like you said, like in the summertime, I would play for a local MPSL team called the Tulsa Athletic, who, you know, it was an amazing setup for us, right? Because as college kids, we were working, our head coach had camps. So we would work camps in the summer. Like in the morning, we would work camps with the kids. Then I'll go back, like we would wake up early to do the camps early morning. And so we wake up at like 5 o'clock. We would do workouts with the team, at the gym. And then we would go work camp during the day, and then at night we would go train with the Tulsa Athletic. You know, and sometimes we would play a game. That's way too much for me,
man. That's why I'm not an
So
athlete.
it's like footy nonstop, but you know how it is in footy. Like you're with your boys. You know, we had a group of like 7, 8 of us doing the same thing every day.
Active
fools.
fools.
Yeah, like it's summertime. You know, the pools on campus are open. You know, you're having a good time, and but at the same time, you don't really understand it. But the whole time, you're getting better because you're working out, you're training. Obviously we had to earn a little bit of money. We had to pay for food somehow, you know. The experience of being in Tulsa was huge for me and my development. Being in those environments around people who wanted to push, wanted to do the same thing I wanted to do, would become a professional, and they wanted to win just as bad as I did. And it was I think you can tell by just the success of the teams through my time there. It was a group of guys that were just relentless in their drive to want to improve and to win, and that stuff, it's contagious, you know. It's and so I'm very lucky that I got to be a part of both those groups.
I didn't know that you were, you know, doing youth soccer camps there with Tulsa. It's kind of funny, like how like the trajectory of like most coaches kind of starts off in youth soccer, and here we are, knowing that you also were involved in that. That's kind of funny. And just imagining you coaching a bunch of kids. Like I'll see you coach the first team players, and you're like frustrated. I can imagine with kids sometimes.
No, the kids it's exciting to be around the kids because they just love footy. You know, they're so like, they're there to have a good time and be with their friends, and it's fun to
it's all about fun, because you're not worried about like the pressures of like the outside world and everything. That's like footy at its purest.
No, it really is. It makes you like kind of take a step back sometimes and be like, yo, like you were there. We were all there at one point in our careers, you know. Like it was I really enjoy like being around like the young kids who are just being introduced to the game, and showing them like how fun it really can be, like to just play footy. And it's you said it though. I mean, you'd be surprised. I think there's a lot of guys who maybe found their passion for coaching maybe by doing these camps and like doing those things to make a little bit of money on the side and stuff. Maybe while they're in college or even before that in high school. I would say it those summers, they were a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to, after your college days, you start, signing your first pro contract. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was with Seattle Sounders too, right?
Yes.
And so, how big was that for you when you finally, achieved that dream of like, signing a professional contract and to play soccer as a job, essentially?
No, like I vividly remember the day that I got told yes and I signed it.
Like no hesitation.
No, I don't even think I read the thing, So yeah, just I'll do whatever. But yeah, it was a very gratifying moment because, like I said, there's a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. As anybody who's in footy knows, like it takes a lot to get to that level, and especially to get to a club like Seattle Sounders, who at the time was on their runs of being in Western Conference Finals, and being the successful team that they still are today. So it was very surreal in the fact that I got the opportunity to be a part of that organization, but also surreal in the fact that I was with a club this size. I remember my very first day on trial there. I was sitting in it. They have a communal meal room for lunch, and I was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, like Chad Marshall, who's the Defender of the Year, sits next to me and says, "Hey, how are you?" I was thinking, these guys are big time. I'll just sit over here in the corner, just eat my food and leave. Then all of a sudden, Chad Marshall comes and sits down and says hi. A guy named Brian Meredith, who was a backup goalkeeper there for a while, he came and said hi. Sat down with me, and then all of a sudden, like Jordan Morris, Christian Roldan, like Clint Dempsey,
big names.
Will Bruin, like all these guys start coming around, like saying, "Hey, how are you?" Like asking me about, I'm just like, wow, like this. I wouldn't even signed at the point, I was just on trial.
And all these guys just coming up to you.
Yeah, and just saying hi, and like there's a reason why that organization succeeds. There's a lot of reasons. But one is that they have very good people in it, and there's some places you go and they'd just be too big time for you, they won't talk to you, they won't do anything like that. And all these people, they say, "Hey, how are you?" Where are you from? So no, it was surreal to be a part of that organization, and I learned so much from being there. So much it really changed the way I look at footy being a part of that organization. From the level of players that are there to the level of coaching and how much I learned, how much I developed. Not just my brain on the field, but physically as well. Their strength and conditioning staff is fantastic. So I'm very lucky to be a part of that organization. Yeah.
I'm sure some of that you probably take away, and you probably are looking to maybe apply it here as in your new role. No, I'm assuming.
Of course. No,
you look at you see like how people perform at the top, and you're like, I want to be able to instill that where I'm at. I'm sure you took that away.
No, absolutely. There's still people that I speak with from that organization that were there at that time that are still there. I ask them questions. Like, what do you think about this? I'm seeing this sort of a thing. What is a solution for this situation? Or, what do you think about this? I'm thinking about maybe implementing this. What do you think about that? And bouncing ideas off them. It's very, like I said, being a part of that organization is invaluable to me because I'm still speaking with people. The one of the guys who brought me there is now the sporting director for Real Salt Lake.
Oh, wow.
So like I'm speaking with him about ideas, scouting, things like that. So.
And that's fascinating to see how much like collaboration takes place behind the scenes between clubs, and I feel like especially between rival clubs, like you would think clubs maybe don't collaborate as much. Like, and I say that from my perspective when I was growing up watching sports. Like, and now that I work here and behind the scenes, I understand now, and maybe I just didn't have the level of understanding when I was slightly younger to think that teams collaborated the way they do. But it is kind of fascinating to see how you guys collaborate and work together behind the scenes to like. Make not just your club successful, but make the whole league successful in turn.
For sure, and I think especially it's a unique situation because I think everybody knows that RSL probably likes us quite a bit. They like our club,
for sure.
And so I'm lucky enough to have that relationship there. But no, there's a lot that goes on even within the league as well. From the time that I was announced, people messaging me and saying like, "Hey, very excited for you to be in this new role. Let me know if you need anything, things like that." There is a bit of collaboration there, but I will also say it is, it's they don't want us to win. They want to win.
Collaboration to a certain
way. Exactly. Like I'll help you for a little bit, but I
don't want you to beat me.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. For sure. Hey, can't give them all the marbles. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, man. Like I want to go back to the Seattle Sounders too, and that lunchroom, man. Like I can't imagine how overwhelming that was just to be like surrounded by all these like big names, and you're just a trialist. Like I know, like I've met big names in the past myself, and like I'm always like, oh wow, like you're not real, and then just to be swarmed by a bunch of them,
Yeah.
I can't imagine that feeling.
No, it was
Like at that time, like now, I think once you like are in the soccer space and you work with people like that, you kind of like that stardom that kind of surrounds people doesn't really like, I don't know, hit the same.
Yeah.
I don't in a very bad way to describe it. I don't know. But like I think when you're like just starting out in your career, meeting big names, I feel like that's like, and they all come to swarm you like that. That's pretty. I don't know.
It was it's kind of that situation because everybody says like like I don't get starstruck or anything like that, but I can tell you in that moment I was like looking around, I was like, oh wow, like this is this is something serious. It was again, but those people at that club, I think it's a reason why they're one of the main reasons why they're successful is because not only do they have good footballers, but they have very good people at that club all the way around. And again, like I consider myself extremely lucky that I got to be a part of that organization.
Yeah, the captain of the organization, right?
For the second team, yeah. There's like at one time there was a preseason game where I was mostly a reserve. I only appeared for the first team a couple times, but in a preseason game, in the second half of a game, I got to wear the captain's armband once. But it's more of like, yeah, we can't find anybody else to do this. So do you want this band? I can't say. I could never say that.
Why did they pick you out of everybody else? You know why?
What?
I said, why'd they pick you out of everybody else if they couldn't find
it was because mostly we put on in the preseason game, they divided it into like first and second group, and the second group was basically the second team, basically the team. And that year, at the start of the year before that, at the end of the year before that, I had been given the captain's band for Seattle Sounders too.
Yeah.
So I think it was just like, hey, this is going to be your group. I'm not that person. Hey. I was not good enough to be a starter for that organization. That is, there's some real competition there. So I was never that guy.
I love the honesty, man. I love the honesty.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna fast forward now. You're with Sacramento now in 2019. A big organization in this league.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of things that they do that's very respected.
Yeah.
First game, Paso. First ever meeting between the two clubs. You were in that game. You came off the bench. Do you remember that game by any chance?
I do remember that game. I remember it was a loss. I can promise you that.
Let's go.
Both times that I was here with Sacramento, because I was here when Sebastian Velasquez scored that goal near post. It just started raining. Yeah. He like banged in near post on Bobby Shuttleworth. We had Bobby Shuttleworth on loan from MLS. So yeah, my trips to El Paso before then were very unsuccessful. I remember being here.
Good for the club though.
I know. I remember being here, and the energy of the stadium. It was very good fan base. Obviously, it was the first year of the club, so you guys had been very successful. Obviously, you guys made the Western Conference Final that year. Everybody was like, man, like this team is real. This El Paso team. Names like Richie Ryan, obviously Yuma being here, Omar Salgado, guys like that. So it was.
What about the city itself? Like I know when visiting teams, they don't obviously get to explore the whole city, but you get a portion to like walk around and look around and check things out. Like what were your impressions about El Paso, the city, and not the club when it was a relatively short time, at least that time when you came.
Yeah. No, you know how it goes. Is you're here once you go on the road to different places. You get in at night. You have the morning. You play that night, and then you leave the next morning. So, but I did get the chance to walk around downtown and things like that. I love the architecture of the buildings. It looked very but I didn't know much about it.
I always tell people like the architecture here in downtown doesn't seem like it belongs to El Paso. Like I've lived in the Northeast, and it seems very kind of close to what we would resemble in buildings in the Northeast in terms of the architecture of downtown. Like it's kind of nice. It doesn't feel like El Paso. It feels like you're some other city. Yeah,
you're the expert. I was like, man, that building looks kind of nice. You kind of went a little deep there on me. I couldn't. I was. This is nice. But I think our impressions when we go on the road is mostly about look like the hotel's nice. That's what players think about, right? It's like, man, this is a nice hotel.
I think a lot of people don't know that El Paso is probably one of the top teams for players when they're going on the road, right? Like in terms of like the hospitality that y'all receive and whatnot.
No, people know that. I think and I don't know exactly, but I know that we get voted as one of the places that takes the best care of the players. Not in terms of, not just in terms of what we do for our players, but
Mhm.
when teams travel and come here and they stay in Paseo del Norte, yeah, they're like, man, this place is nice. All my friends that from the league that come here and stay, they're like, man, this place is nice. Like, this is really nice.
You're getting luxury there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we take care of you guys.
And then they got that built-in spa. Like, if they wanted to treat themselves, they could. I guess
they could. But yeah, that's next level. That's on them.
All right. I mean, just now that you stayed here, you've been here for a few years now. I mean, just how much have you gotten to know the city, and what are some of the things that you've come to kind of like and enjoy when living here?
There's a lot of things I like about the city. I like how easy life is here. I would say it's very convenient to get everywhere that you want to get.
Oh yeah. Fast.
I will say that the football community around what we have, it's an area that's known for having kids that just love football, and I love that. I think it's fantastic. It's a reason why the city produces so many good footballers. So I love that. Obviously, we have our own, the training ground, the things like that. The set of the stadium is great here. So that stuff is fantastic. I like the food scene a lot. There's a couple spots that my girlfriend and I frequent.
Underrated.
We frequent a lot around here. So yeah, again, it's easy. I'm here because of football, and I have, like I told you before, like the resources that the club gives us to try to be successful is top in the league. And for me, one of the biggest draws is that, the fact that we have an ownership group that's so supportive of us, that wants to continue to do things well, wants to continue to progress, always looking to improve year after year. What can we do better? And yeah, like I said, it's a destination that players in our league and coaches in our league and people that have been around, they know how good this place is. And now, being able to live here, I see that the lifestyle of it is just as good. Like it's a great place to live. It's a great place to be. My girlfriend and I, we really enjoy it a lot.
I think people always seem to knock off the idea of living El Paso until you come and check it out and you live and you're like, wow, I definitely did not expect this place to be as great as it is. I grew up in East Texas and I had never been to El Paso before coming here for this job. And it was easy for me to be like, dismiss El Paso.
Yeah.
But once you're here and you check it out and you're like, oh, this place is actually wonderful. And I think that's what a lot of people, once they're here, they realize.
Treat yourself to everyday food and drink specials at the District Pub and Kitchen. With 3 convenient locations here in El Paso, you can catch them between 7 a.m. and 2 a.m. Now back to the podcast.
You a few more years down the line, in 2021, and I get this off of your Instagram, man. When you made this announcement that you had to retire early in your career because of some complications with a knee injury. Just after all that hard work that's put in, when you have to medically retire, I'm sure it's shattering for someone.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't easy. Obviously, I think you said it. We work so hard as players to be pros. A lot of sacrifice goes into it. And for it to be cut short for something that you really don't have control over, it's very frustrating. Obviously, I had my cry about it. Spoke to a lot of my my family, obviously my friends, and it wasn't easy. But to be honest, there's some things that we just don't have control over, and it is unfortunate that it happened like that. But. I came to peace with it. I gave everything I could to get to the position I was in. So I could leave and say look, I still gave it everything I had. I tried to be as professional as possible, to give everything to every team that I played for. And like I said, there's some things that you just don't have control over, and it's frustrating. But there's no point in sulking over it. Yeah.
You make it sound like this was kind of came to terms with it pretty quickly, but was that the case, or was it something that took a little longer? I can tell you, for me, whenever it comes to difficult decisions, usually it takes me a little longer to process and to I always try to find a solution that maybe what if I did this, or what if I did, and then there's some people that are just like, that's it, man.
Yeah, it definitely, I found this weird period. So after it happened, I had always known that I could go back to school and finish my schooling at University of Tulsa when I retired. Funny enough, it was my third phone call was to my college coach, Tom, and I told him about what was going on, and he's like, okay, well, come back now. start your coaching career. I know you.
Yeah.
At this time in my career,
And that's actually what I was going to ask you about your coaching career in Tulsa.
And at this time in my career, it had been my third club that I had been at, and every club that I had been at had, I should backtrack. As a player, obviously you're so focused on the present and being a pro and winning this week, winning my, doing well in my next session, those things. But in the back of your head, you're always thinking, what am I going to do? I can't play forever, So at this point in my career, I had 3 or 4 of the coaches that I had played under had told me, like, look, I think you might have a future in coaching. You should consider that. I said, I was like, okay, I'm not there yet, coach. Like every pro is like, nah, I'm not ready. I'm gonna be a pro for another 10 years. Don't worry about it. I'll get to that when I get to it.
Just life just fast
yeah,
tracked you there.
exactly. And so when this all happened, obviously I told you I knew I had the ability to go back to University of Tulsa and finish my schooling. And it just so happened that they had an opening on the staff. So my college coach was like, well, you come back and you join the staff and you finish your school, and we want you to come back. We're happy to have you come back and be a part of the group again. So, but before I went back, there was this like 3 or 4 month period between when I had to retire and when I had to go back to school and start coaching.
Got it.
So I kind of spent that 3 to 4 months just kind of,
Like,
just relaxing, like it. I went to see some family, starting to look into what the coaching world would be like. Playing like golf with my friends, like
sounds tranquil.
Going to the pool, so like it definitely helped. Just it was this period where it wasn't like I had to go on to the next thing right away. It was like this 3 month period where I kind of mentally reset, came to terms with what happened, and then said, okay, like I'm ready to go. Let's get on to the next thing.
You ease yourself into
exactly.
that lifestyle. That's kind of nice. It sounds tranquil, man. Like being able to hang with the homies and go some golf, go pool. It's pretty peaceful.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Nice. So at least, because like it's a nice way to start a new life. Not just like go in and like go hard at work, which you can do, and some people are really successful at. Yeah. But why not give yourself a little break after such a difficult decision and a shattering moment? Why not give yourself some peace before you start this new life?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like the doctor told me you got to be done, and then the next week I had to go start coaching. It was, so I'm very lucky in that manner that I had like that period to kind of come to terms with everything. So, but it was I'm lucky. I had the next step lined up, and it's why you go to college. It's why you have. Everybody says, well, you get your education because, that if you do your knee, the common saying is like, if you do your knee, then what are you going to do next? Well, I did my knee and I knew what I was going to do next. So I had
plan
the next
B.
step. Yeah, exactly.
Plan B was ready to go. And
exactly.
Ready to launch.
Exactly.
So, well, then you began your coaching career in Tulsa and you found some success there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2023, you come here to El Paso Locomotive. First time you began coaching at a professional club.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, how did that process go? Was there like a job opening? Did you like go on LinkedIn or something and you like applied, or was there like more personal contacts and people were contacting you or vice versa?
No, funny enough, I talked about me being so fortunate to be a part of the Seattle Sounders organization. Mm-hmm. John Hutchinson was my coach at Seattle Sounders.
Oh wow, nice.
So obviously we had a good relationship, and he was one of those coaches that kind of told me like, hey, like if you ever want to go into coaching, you should consider it. I think you might have a future in this.
Got it.
So when I was done, we had a conversation, and around that time was when he started to take the position, or he had heard about the position here or something like that, or maybe it was a couple months after I was done. But no, he said it. He's like, would you want to come back and would you want to start your coaching? I said, like I need to finish school. It's paid for. Like if I don't go back and finish this school now, then I'm never going to go back and finish. Like I have to do it.
Committed.
And so he's like, okay, like let's keep in contact. And I was following the team. So this was in 2022. So I was following the team in 2022, speaking with Hutch and watching the group. So once that season ended, and then I graduated from TU in 2023. Yeah. In the winter of 2023, then he was like, "Well, would you be interested in coming and helping me on staff?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." Like everybody, like I told you, everybody knows about this club. Everybody knows how good this club is. And I was like, "Man, that's a fantastic opportunity." he's like, hey, sign this really quick. And I was like, okay, sign it. And, I got in my
No
car.
hesitation. There seems to be a pattern here.
Yeah,
Just sign
exactly.
these things.
I just, I like signed it, put my, couple bags of clothes in the car, and I said, all right, let's go. Let's
go to
do
El
this.
Paso.
Let's go to El Paso. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up here in 2023.
Well, then in 2023, you're working under Brian Clairhout. Just explain to us your initial role, like what your and I know, but just to the people, right? Like what your initial role was and what you were essentially doing on the day-to-day with that your first title here at El Paso.
Yeah, so I was brought in under Hutch and obviously the beginning of Brian's tenure to be an IDP coach with. So IDP stands for Individual Development Program. So obviously what the club had realized and what we all know is that we have a very talent-rich area. We have very good players in our academy, but there is this period in a lot of players' careers where they go from being a very good academy player to being bottom of the barrel, and for the first team, they're good enough. They're very good at the academy level, which a lot of our players are. But there's a big jump between being an academy player and good at the academy level and being a good professional in the USL Championship.
That difference is drastic.
No, it's drastic. So the IDP program, although there's a lot of different uses for it, one of the main uses was to help these players in that period of their development where maybe they're not able to get as many reps as they would like in first team training. Maybe they aren't we aren't able, because of the limitations of number of staff that we have, to give them the attention they need to develop their game. So the IDP coach is meant to have individual sessions with them, kind of cater to their needs, so that we can continue to bring them along in their development with the first team. So that was why I was brought here, was to head up that program, to build that program for the club. And then when Brian was here, I was doing things like this, and then it started to go into more of this role of helping him with scouting, helping him with training, like helping him, designing sessions, like doing things of this nature.
Get your hands in a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, we talk about it a lot within the coaches circle. Is the benefit to the USL is that you get to do a lot because the staffs aren't as big as like an MLS staff or or even a Liga MX staff. But the downfall sometimes is you have to do a lot. Like you're required to do a lot because
sword.
So for a young player or a young coach like myself, I was very like I'll do whatever we need to do, to make sure that this is successful. That the players get what they need, that the coach feels that he is being able to get his messages across in training. So yeah, I was like, tell me what you want me to do. I'll do it. So yeah, my role started as this IDP role, but kind of ended in this, helping with video, helping. It's just what can I do to help. Is basically how it ended up.
That kind of reflected this year too, right? When that transition to Wilmer happened, and you had to come in and be the assistant coach. It showed that you're down to help wherever you're needed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like coaching changes are never easy for any organization, and I think Wilmer managed that situation very well. Yeah, and obviously part of the reason is because of his experience. He's been around so many different clubs. He's been a head coach of 3 different MLS clubs.
Yeah.
Been successful at all those clubs as well, and having the experience that he has within this game and within the league. It helped that transition a lot. And a part of my role was helping him with that transition. And it's like, hey, what do you need me to do? I'm very lucky. We are very lucky as a club that we have Wilmer Cabrera here. Now we have Jerson here as well, who helps us. But yeah, it was what that role kind of ended up being was me just helping him. Same way I was helping Brian. Like, what do you need me to do? Doing video, helping with training, setting up training and things like that. Helping with some scouting, and I think that's it's the way that USL clubs, coaches, you need to be like that. You need to be willing to do a lot, and again being hungry to learn and do those things. I think it's what it's what makes the USL kind of like a a very good place for young coaches like myself.
And I feel like, and not just coaches, young players, people like myself in the front office, right? It's a great place to be and begin your career. As you begin this phase of life, this chapter of life. It's a great place to be, and I agree 100% with what the USL has to offer to young people and to people that want to maybe go into coaching.
Yeah,
it's an awesome place.
Absolutely.
So I mean now you're going out of coaching, you're heading into more of a front office role as a technical director. I mean, we've already congratulated you many times, but again, congratulations.
Thank you.
On the appointment, man. It's not such an honor, I'm sure, for you to be in this role, and just what were those conversations like, for you to take over this role and to be the first non-head coach to hold this? Because we've had technical directors in the past, but that is usually always attached to the head coach, part of their responsibilities. But now it's the first time that we've had them separate. So I mean, just what were those conversations like to see you become that person?
Yeah, I think it was something, like I said before, our club is looking every single year to grow, to progress. How can we do things better? How can we improve? And so I think that's where the conversation started with the club. I think that we saw over the past 3 to 4 years that combining the technical director role and the head coaching role is probably too much for a head coach to consider. I think one of the biggest differences in what a technical director does and what a head coach is doing, in that the head coach is concentrated on this training session this week, winning this game on the weekend. Maybe it's, hey, we got a Wednesday game and we got a Saturday, and a Saturday game we got to travel. All of those sort of aspects. They're much more of a short-term mindset, where the technical director is this 3 to 5 year plan. What are we as a club trying to do in this next 3 to 5 years to get us where we want to be? It's basically like, another guy that I spoke with said, he's like, the technical director is keeping the ship like pointed in the direction that it wants to go, while the head coach like manages those waves, those daily waves and those weekly waves. And so I think that you can see like that there is, people might say, well, I mean, aren't they doing the same thing? And like, no, actually, like there is a bit of conflict in those roles, because, this head coach is so concentrated on trying to win this game, but also then in the back of the head, he's got to have this 5-year plan.
He's got to think about like who he's going to bring in, and who's going to sign, and who's like staying. That's a lot.
And there's a lot, and obviously I'm sure we'll speak about it more, but there's a lot more that goes into it. That it's just, we felt that it was best as a club to separate the roles, so we can maximize, the different areas, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, I mean, like what are some of those things that you're thinking, like, were some of the reasons why like the organization felt like these roles needed to be separate? And I mean, I felt like that was going that way anyway, as someone that's lower down in the corporate ladder here at Locomotive, right? Like, I'm not in the big business meetings happening upstairs, right, per se, but you kind of have a feeling that we're joining, but I feel like a lot of organizations in the USL and America are kind of going that route now, where it's like they're starting to understand that these roles kind of do need to be their own separate roles.
I think, obviously, I think I view this role as kind of being 3-pronged. The first being the oversight and management of building the technical staff, the support staff, and the roster. So being a part of the Locomotive in that way, helping our staff, give our staff the tools they need to be successful, making sure that we have a quality support staff to help them in that journey, and also like acquiring players, managing the roster, doing those sorts of things. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is, how are we using the resources we have in FC Juarez, Bravos, to help us in this manner? Obviously, we saw this year with us getting more players than we historically have. How are we managing that relationship with them? How are we maximizing that relationship with them? Because obviously they have a lot of very, very talented players in that organization, as well as they have a staff that are very experienced. Fran and his staff have been nothing short of fantastic with us. I very much learned a lot and enjoyed my conversations with them. So obviously integrating that into what we're doing, being the second piece of this role. And then the third piece, but definitely not the least important, is the academy, and how are we integrating those players into the first team? What are we doing for our academy players so that they are given a good opportunity to be seen by us, but also continue their development? Now, Does that always mean that they're going to be with the first team, right away? No,
Yeah.
but maybe part of their development, and this is part of my role as well, is helping them with their future in football, which sometimes that could be going to college, and then
Which is just as important.
coming back to our team, and talking with them through that process. So again, I think like the three prongs are obviously the oversight of the Locomotive side, the second being like the integration with Juarez and working with them, and then the third being integration of the academy and helping manage that relationship with our first team, and what does that look like. So we're lucky enough, like I said, we have all these fantastic resources, but now this is not something that Wilmer has to, spend all of his time on. He can focus on
top of like video and training session,
of
tactics,
of course,
that's a lot.
exactly. And speaking with the players, making sure players are healthy, that the week is planned out, all these sorts of things. So that's it. That's why we chose to separate the roles. And again, like I'm here to help give our staff, our technical staff, and our players the tools that they need to be successful. And that's probably the biggest piece of this whole role.
Taking a lot of positive steps for 2025, right? Like,
Absolutely.
This is what it sounds like, and we've seen it in action. Me and everyone behind the camera. Just how much you've dived into this position and how you're taking that responsibility. I mean, you got to take those positive steps for next year, right?
Of course.
Because based on and being real, right? Like the season was not as good as we wanted it to be. So how do we change that? We start by being proactive in the off season, and that seems like that's what we're doing right now as an organization. With the hiring of you and the extension of Wilmer.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can tell you, it started before the before the last game ended. These things already started. Obviously, we're preparing for next year, and there's even pieces of this that we're preparing for 2026 already. But there's a lot of things that need to improve. This year was very disappointing on a lot of different fronts. But I can promise you that myself, our front office, our ownership group, Wilmer, Jerson, Massimo, everybody involved, that we're working tirelessly to make sure that we get this place back to where it was, in 2019, 2020. Because, like I said, I've said it many times, like this is a top place in the league to be. We have what we need to be successful, and we need to make sure that we are successful. And I can promise you that there are a lot of people working very hard to make sure we get back to where we belong.
I guess to close out the podcast here, just any personal message you have to the people listening or to anyone out there, right? Like
obviously there's a lot that we need to improve. We've looked at the roster. We've made roster decisions. We have started, obviously, the recruiting process very heavily. Player signings are going well so far. We're very happy with who we've been able to bring in thus far. And I can say that, there's a lot that we're working on. Obviously, we need more goals. We need to score more goals, which is probably one of the most glaring issues that we had in the team last year. So we're working hard to add goal contributions to the team. I think that we're making necessary steps, kind of the things that maybe people don't see a lot. We're making those steps off the field as well, to make sure that we're getting to where we want to be.
This was Alberto Huichapa. This was
Ray Saari.
And this was the Kickback podcast. Thanks for tuning in.